Okay, let's move on now. So our all answers introduction to graphic design, and we'll be talking about principles, we'll be talking about elements, the type of design, and then we'll be talking about color and typography, we'll be talking about design area, we'll be talking about introduction to Photoshop, and we'll be doing practical works. So it's a bulky theory aspects when it comes to the understanding of graphic design, and we'll be summarizing it with nine brush, and it is best that you guys understand this as a whole. Okay, so what is graphic design? Have you asked yourself, is graphic design just about creating flyers, or just doing fun design, or doing ugly design? Probably, people may think that graphic design is just the best flyer, right? People would think graphic design is just the best flyer. So if you see ugly flyer, then it mean not graphic design. If you see the funnest flyer, then it mean the person actually design, or the person is a graphic designer. So we will get to understand what graphic design is, and then this is the definition of graphic design. Graphic design is a creative process that combines art and technology to communicate ideas. It involves the use of technology. It is it involves the use of visual elements to convey messages, evoke emotions, and solve problems through design. Graphic design uses the variety of tools and techniques to create visual contents for print, digital media, and beyond. So, explain this paragraph, uh, we are going to break it down sentence by sentence so that you can get a full understanding of what graphic design actually is. So, graphic design is a creative process. First, it's a process, right? It's a creative process. So it's not you just doing anything. It's a creative process. Everybody have to think firstly before they know what they want to design. It's a creative process that combines art and technology. So combining art and technology works in a way such that as I told you guys during the orientation, um few years back, maybe 10, 11, 12 years back, people didn't have technology. So the artists then, anybody who's an artist here will understand this part. The artists will have to paint, we have to draw, the artists will have to do basically every the present imagination, the artist will have to create it, and then if he having to make mistake, he had to redo it, and probably if there's no mistake, but it will take him much long time to do simple things. So using the artist material and combining it in technology to communicate idea is how graphic design came about. So it combines art, right? It's seeing artworks that the artist will do, and then, but you will not be like the artist because you're using technology, right? Using your laptop, using your phone, using your iPad, using technology now to communicate idea, and then because you will not do anything, or you're not paint a picture. A person who paint a picture is not communicating a particular idea until he put or text or illustrate something that will give out a particular communication or a particular message. So the main importance of graphic design is to communicate an idea or message. So it involves the use of technology. Oh, sorry, why I take technology from? It involves the use of visual elements to convey messages, evoke feelings, and solve problems. So what are the visual elements? The visual elements are shapes, line, typography, color, images. So basically all the things you use on your design or while you're designing are image, text, typography, texture. These are visual elements. These are things that you can see or use while you're designing. So if you look at this is a visual element and this is a visual element. This is just an image and this image and then there's a text, the black, the yellow. These are all visual elements. All these here are all visual elements. Okay, thank you, Fred. So, uh, Mam- Mambo and Emmanuel, I think everybody have a better idea on what graphic designing actually is. Sorry for the interruption. I don't know. I just got locked out of the call. I didn't know why. But thank God I'm back. And so, as Fred was saying, just to buttress what he said. So, your graphics should be able to convey a particular message. Your graphics should be able to convey a particular message. When you say convey message, it means that your your graphic design should give out a particular message. What take for example, this on your screen right now is a graphic design because number one, it have visual elements and then it's communicating a particular idea or conveying a particular message. It's telling you what graphic design is. Okay, and then it should be able to invoke emotions. So invoking emotions in graphic design works de- based on the project you are working with. So take for example, you are doing a birthday flyer. The emotion of that should be excitement, joy, peace, right? Or happiness, right? If somebody happen to see that birthday flyer, then they get excited, then they feel happy, then they get, something very, very delightful. And then, or if you are doing a burial flyer or a burial event, the the mood, the mood of that graphic should be something that will convey, sorrow, bereavement, and pains and hurt for their loss or their loved one they lost. So these are emotions, these are various emotions someone can get when when they see your graphics, right? These are various emotions. And then your graphics should also solve a particular problem. There are a lot of problems in the world, as Fred said about the sample for directions, right? That's one of the problems graphics can solve. And then graphics can solve problem for employment, right? If example a particular school does a flyer for uh application or they get application, there's the all the job application and it can be flyer, right? If they having job for at a particular institution or a particular entity, they do flyer for it. You see call for application, you see vacancy, right? But back then you probably you hear on radio or you see vacancy or on people posts and stuff. But now you see a very neat flyer, you know, they're very neat flyer. And if you don't have job, you see that flyer, you apply, you get a job. It's solve a particular problem, not just for you being unemployed, but for the people who were seeking employees, right? For the company that was seeking employees, because they needed employees, and then the graphics design flyer they did, it solved that problem. Another example, right? You needed to learn graphic design. You saw this flyer, you got excited about it, and then you pay your money. Now you're in the class with the learning graphic design. these are problems these are problems being solved through graphic design. You seeing it? So that example, the flyer you saw before coming to this class, right? It gave you that excited. It gave you that excitement. Number one, it gave you that trust. Number two, and then it gave you a particular message. You seeing it? It gave you a particular message that you learn Photoshop, you learn Canva for $10, and that it will be on Zoom or Google Meet. All that information give you a particular message. That's why you're here today. And then graphic design use variety of tools and techniques to create visual content for print, digital media, and beyond. So the variety of tools will be based on the software you are using as a graphic designer. So you can choose to use Canvas, you choose to use Photoshop, you choose to use CorelDRAW, you choose to use Pixel Lab, you choose to use Adobe Illustrator, you choose to use basically anything. You can even choose to use Microsoft Word to do a particular design. So the tools you want to use to do your design and the techniques, everybody here is 17% actively online in this class right now. uh we have their own various techniques when it comes to designing flyers, right? I'll give you a project and everybody will present totally different things. The difference between everybody project will be their techniques they use, their creativity they use to create visual content. Whether it's for print, whether the person will print it or they will post it on Facebook or they will keep it for souvenir. Alright. So any questions so far? So the the first element is line. They use line to divide spaces or direct eye, suggest movement, create emphasis. This is what you use line for in Photoshop. So you use line to divide space, direct the eye, suggest movement, and create emphasis. So this is example of line. You get a curved line, curved line, straight line. So we use line, as I said, to divide space. So sometimes you'll see uh, this line dividing a particular space between two words or something. You will see various type of lines. You will see line probably when you're working, but sometimes when you're working you'll see you can use line to divide this two space or this two space. You can use line in between it and it will still give you that space dividing, and then you use line to direct eyes. So it works in a way such that you have seen maybe the flyer we use for the publicity. There are some lines that pointing out to a particular area that you saw there, right? There are lines pointing out to a particular area. So these are all lines. If you want to direct the eye. So if just in case that the person have to read this and you want immediately when they read line, you want them to reshape, you just have to direct the eye so that they will not even look at color and then they will come straight to shape, right? So if you look at this, once you read line, you see you follow this direction here to come with your eye. Now you follow this direction and then read shape. Probably if you choose to read color, you can read color. So it suggests movement to the same movement and then create emphasis. You can create emphasis period means by underlining, a particular word to create emphasis. So the line is very important. And then you see uh, color. So using distinct color palettes bring continuity to your work. So as this implies, if whenever you are designing is not advisable you use multiple colors. It's not advisable you use multiple colors when you are designing. So it's very advisable you use distinct color palettes to carry continuity to your works. Take for instance that this node uh having different color, you will notice that it doesn't continue. Probably you think say I take the other one from somewhere, I take the other one from somewhere, just add it together, right? But this color using yellow, black, and white, it gives continuity to the slide. It gives continuity to your slide. So you see it as one, it brings unity and continuity. So in practical life example, school building, right? You let's take school building as an example, and then we'll take rented apartment as another example. uh Rented apartment, let's take example rented apartment where they get apartment or boom. You see that everybody everybody having their own color for their own apartment, although it's one big building, but every section in that building get different color. It it, it shows that different people they living in this big house, right? It shows that different people they living in this big house. But in case that the school building now having only two colors, sometimes two colors, one up, one down, one down, right? The entire building, you see it having that particular color, while all that three-story building or that one story building or that four-story building, you get this particular color giving continuity to show that it's a one single building, right? In one people for one function in this particular building. So using distinct color it also applies when you are designing. You choose a particular or two or three colors when you are designing and continuously using this color to bring continuity, whether you are creating multiple color design from the colors you chose, right? And then the next one is shape. The next element is shape. Is it shape? When you think about shape, when you think about shape, not just when drawing, but when composing your piece to create online sculpture. Alright, so here you see that when you're thinking about shape, you shouldn't just think about triangle, triangle, in rectangle or square, right? You should use each of these to create another shape or an underlying shape. You can pattern these things to give you multiple other shape when you are designing, okay? Or you can use it in a way such that uh, it give more attention, more details to your work. And then negative space. uh, the negative space, the space between each element can be just as important as the element themselves. Okay, let's just explain this. So explain this, the space between each element can be just as important as the element themselves. So it says that the space the space between here and here, the space you see 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 here. All these empty space that between this typography, because I told you text or typography is a particular element as I will elaborate only very soon. So text or typography is a particular element. So this element and this element, they have a particular space, and it is important because you can be able to differentiate between both elements when you are designing. And then use negative space to order and balance object in your design or to create an image of their own. So we use negative space here. We use negative space here to order and balance this entire slide you see. This slide was done in Photoshop actually. So we use negative space. We using this space all the way here is the negative space. This particular space you see is the negative space. So in is used actually to balance here. As you can see, even if you put rectangle right here, is this is still balanced in order, right? We use negative space now to we use negative space to balance this particular word. So best option for using negative space is using your ruler as guideline so that you can be able to order it perfectly. And then it makes your work able each element in your design able to breathe on their own and have their own space. So imagine where there wasn't no space between this number one, number two, everything just add up there. You'll be hard for you to differentiate which one is which one. So you should give each element in your design space to breathe and work on their own. So number five is texture. Texture can give ductility and depth to design, but use it sparingly. So as you see here, these are various texture. Texture mainly works with your background. So when you are using texture, you should use it sparingly. You shouldn't it shouldn't be more focused on because it will be too lousy. You should use it small, sparingly so that you just give that little vibe to your work or just little tactic or little depth to your design. So it's not basically for more action. And then the next one is typography. Typography, the typeface you choose the can affect the way how people interpret your text, the overall tone of your piece. Let me read it again. The typeface you choose can affect how people interpret your piece and the overall tone of your piece. So this means that which the type of text you choose to write something can interpret differently how people are going to read. Number one, how people are going to read the message you read on your design and how people will understand the message you read on your design. Let's take a practical example to that so that you can have a better understanding to it. So let's say so we want to say I love you. So interpreting I love you in this front in this step phase where it's just script I love you. But let's see if we can interpret I love you in a more beautiful way. Uh sorry. You see this I love you now. It giving the perfect love language. So it gave me a particular love language. So it's better when you say I love you or something lovely in cursive or romantic form. So this is really, really romantic and is interpreted different way. So the first one it had the same I love you on it, but it just maybe it can just be something friendly or bold when you telling your friend I love you, bro, I love you, sis. But if you telling your girlfriend I love you and you wrote it like that, it's not something romantic, it's not something lovely, right? But if you wrote it like this, it gave that romantic vibe, it gave that loving and caring vibe. Imagine if you chose to or font, maybe the horror font. I don't know if I have something like that. Okay, imagine telling somebody you love them with this type of front face, right? It's very, very scary. You see I love you with blood on it. It doesn't imply, it is interpreted different way. Maybe you planning to do something bad to the person and then you telling them you love them. It giving that type of horror or scary vibe, right? It giving totally different interpretation. So one word or one sentence you read using a particular interface interpret your entire word differently. You just, maybe as a designer you think writing it like this, it just give you I love you messages. Or if somebody reading this I love you like this is interpreted differently than when somebody reading it the first way with that cursive writing, and then it's interpreted different way when somebody is reading it with uh, a straight or plain writing. So you have to understand which font you use when you are designing. And then the next area we have here is sharing fonts are easier to read online, and some sharing fonts are easier to read online, and sharing fonts work better in large block of print. When you are verifying front tab, try to pick ones with similar proportion. This is very, very important because you will need it. You need to understand it better. So they say some sharing fonts are easier to read online. So this type of font that you see on your screen right now is sun sharing font, but we'll talk more about it when we get there. And then sharing fonts are fonts like this. So you see this type of font. This type of font is basically sharing fonts, and they are used most often with big brands. They are used mainly with large block of print. In the next step of font are sans serif fonts. Let me just see if I can find them. Okay. So this type of font is sans serif. They are font that doesn't have tail. Where if I talk about tail, I mean something like this. You see, for all these letters, they have extra extension on it. But sans serif fonts doesn't have extension on it. They are just script where they are just script. Using this while it having extension on the both side or each edges, you never have extension. But you see this is just script, no extra extension. So this one is sharing font, and this is sans serif font. So this is used for online writing, and this is used for large block of print. So if you see having to see magazine booklet, you will notice that they use this type of font meaning in their writing big on the magazine. And when you're reading online or seeing most of these things online, most of these small writing, because sunshine fonts when it's actually smaller and grouped together, it's still easy to read. It's still easy to read. But this one, if it's smaller and grouped together, it's very hard to read. That's the important when they say one is easy to read and one. Okay, and then when you have a verifying interface, try to pick ones with similar proportion. So when you're trying to pick particular typeface. We're trying to pick a particular typeface, say you should use one with similar proportion. So if you use this typeface, maybe you use it for typography, it means the next one you should be using should be in the same proportion. You shouldn't use another type of typeface for another word. Let's take for example this one, where if we chose this one, the serif font, and then we choose to use sans serif fonts only. Sometimes it can work depending on your design concept or your creativity. Sometimes it can work, and then sometimes it doesn't work. So if you're using sans serif font, you continue in that same proportion to continue give continuity to your work also. And then the next element is the size. Size is used to convey importance. Size attract attention. Size create contrast in design. Size can function. Size can attract. And size can organize. So when when this element is very very important, and it's important because it give your workspace, number one, it give you your workspace, and also not just giving your workspace, but it attract attention in a way such that you choose to make some things small, or you choose to make a particular workspace small, medium, and big, and then the size can function, size can attract, size can organize. So let's take this workspace at a particular example when it comes to size. So this is a particular size. This is a, I think, 19 by 6 size because our PowerPoint presentation. So this size of this workspace is functioning as a presentation, and maybe other design you will do will function as online poster design. I don't know what's happening with fencing that it kept leaving the meeting, but hope it may work get on correctly. And for others that are leaving, we are discussing one of the most important part. Sorry that I'm talking plenty. Fancy, what's happening to your network? You have to stay stable, please. So this is very important. You should pay keen attention to it because it's the fundamental of your graphic design career that you should understand and read often so that you better understand these things. So size you can use to convey importance or attract attention. So uh, sizes varies. It varies ranging from the smallest you can think of to the biggest size you can think of, all functioning to, talking about something. So as I said, there are eight. The last one, forget to write it there. So uh, the last one is image, and it's something everybody familiar with. So image are just another element that you can use in various proportion. You can get image from your phone, from the internet, for images or for your design, right? Images are basically, most often you'll be using image picture, you'll be using images as background, you'll be using image as icons. As you can see this one, you can see these ones here, you can see this one here. These are all png images that you can use while you design. So the next is principles of design. So when you say principle of design, these are guidelines and rules. But before we go to principle of design, any question for anybody on the elements of design? For the benefit of this of the class and how far we've reached, I think you should ask questions based on your understanding from what is being taught right now. Because if you ask outside the lesson, it will just give us you got space to talk something that is not related. But these are questions that we will reach to when we start doing practical. Uh, so just to answer that question, if you do a particular design, you use a particular font, you use a particular style based on your creativity, number one, and then based on your research you did for that design. So before you do a design, you do research on how that design is presented online, or because there is nothing new on the face of the earth. Anything you think you can do, somebody not do it before in their own style, right? So you research on that, and then you see how they did their design, which type of font they use, whether are serif fonts or are sans serif fonts, and then you understand how they arrange that their design, and now you can now apply it to your design. What not applying fully what the person did, right? You just have a broader understanding of how you can now. Okay, guys, when we talk about principle of design, we are talking about rules, we are talking about guidelines, we are talking about applicable concepts when it comes to design. Things you should do and things you should not do when you are designing. And then I'll urge you to read this note very well and be able to understand it more. You can check on YouTube videos, you can check on TikTok videos for these principles so that you can have a better understanding when it comes to principles of design. So, number one principle is the contrast principle, and this is a beginner designer biggest nightmare. So, people who are just coming into design, people who just want to start learning graphic design. Even myself, this was my biggest nightmare. When I say biggest nightmare, you it feel like your design is not catching up, it's not matching until you understand the contrast principle, right? So the contrast principle say the contrast is one of the most common graphic design principle in every graphic designer must dominate it. It's common because it's easily broken. It's easily, like very easily broken. So it's common because people can know it. People can choose to do it the way they once they certify with it, right? Once they certify or once they tire, whether you margin or not margin, whether you agree or not agree, people can just know it, right? You just know it. So the contrast principle is important. It's very, very important. And as a graphic designer, you should understand and dominate it very well so that you can have uh, a dominant idea when it comes to using contrast. The contrast refers to the difference between the element in your design. Means, for example, in your color, that if you use a dark color in one element, the other graphic element needs to be a light color to easily differentiate from the other. So I take it again and saying that I'm saying that when you are designing a particular work or a particular project, let's look at this example below. Let's take a look at this example below. You see the good in the basa for here. So once you are working with a darker color in one element, once you are using dark color in one element and you want to use another color in that same element, it shouldn't be another dark color. You see here, it shouldn't be another dark color. It should be a lighter color. So as to differentiate between one element and another. So this one, the good one, the press we use dark color, we use black in the background, and we can use a darker green to wear contrast. We have to use light color. Maybe for example, we didn't choose we choose maybe deep blue to wear here. Um, so okay. So we say against spelling I'm a mean. So this is what the contrast principle say. If you are using light color and you are using dark color for one in a particular background, don't use dark color. You see I read my name niche with dark blue, it can't even shine enough for you to see it, right? If I use light color, maybe I use this light blue. You see it right now. You can see my name very clear, right? So this is why you should understand when you are designing. You should not use, and then when you are using light colors, like maybe take for example here, if you are using light color, you shouldn't use another light color. Like you already have white, and then you shouldn't use another light color, maybe color like this again. So if you see when you use this light color on this white, it doesn't give contrast, it doesn't differentiate one element from another. So if you bring the same color, if you bring on the dark color, you see how visible it becomes. But if you bring it on the white color, it becomes very, very blurred and not even visible. So you should understand this very well. Once you are using light colors in your background, you use darker colors. And then if you are using darker color in your background of one element, you use light colors. Understood? Okay. The next principle is the balance principle. The balance refers to how you put elements in your design. And for putting all the heavy elements in your design in the same place. There are two types of balance: symmetrical balance, which create balance by aligning equally weighted elements, in asymmetrical balance. In asymmetrical design, in opposite design is the opposite. You align a heavy element with lighter ones to create a contrast effect. So this is saying that when you are designing, whenever you are designing, so this is saying that whenever you are designing, you shouldn't put all the heavy elements in one place. You shouldn't put all the heavy elements. The heavy element could be text, a heavy element could be text, a heavy element could be images, or maybe cycles you when you are designing, right? So you shouldn't put all the heavy elements in one place. I'll give you a practical example to this. So if probably you already put this laptop, so this type of arrangement is uh asymmetrical balance. So you see the opposite, you see the opposite on one side. So you see this is asymmetrical because one heavy element is here and then another heavy element is also here. So this could be asymmetrical or symmetrical. Probably, uh, maybe I would say, uh, maybe I would say is asymmetrical, but somehow it's looking symmetrical because they are opposite each other, right? They are opposite each other. And then you see there are two type of balance: symmetrical, which create balance by a line equally with their elements. So and then asymmetrical by a line, the design is the opposite. You have the element like I once create to create contrast. So we see this is symmetrical or balance. So equally weighted element, it can be centered, you know, like or this. You see here is center. So this and then this is asymmetrical balance. So this is symmetrical, this is asymmetrical balance. And so when you are balancing, it's either you put one heavy element in on one side and you put the other element on the other side, or you now put all the heavy element in a symmetrical way so that maybe it can be centered so that it gives that balance to your work. And then number three is emphasis. Emphasis, uh, emphasis refer to importance of the elements in your design and what order they should have on it. What the emphasis principle say is that the most important you information that you need to show your in your design must be the first thing people see in your project. So if you have a better understanding to this, you are on the path to creating stunning visuals. Emphasis says that the most important element in your design should be the first thing and people see or the first thing people see in your project. So if you look at this design here, if you look at this design here, what you see this woman, the first thing people having to see is graphic design. Right? Before now, you have to see the institution, the TV malls, the now malls, now, this and this. So the first thing I wanted people to see on this design or on this flyer wasn't 3 month certificate, wasn't 9 month certificate, wasn't the institution name, but I wanted them to see graphic design. Mhm. So once I made your eyes grabs to graphic design, and then you now it's either you get interested or you are not interested. So if you are interested now, you start looking above or looking on the flyer for institution name, for how many months, what's the price, and then the location and contact. But if it doesn't interest you, you will not even care, you just scroll past, right? So the first thing I wanted people to see on this design was graphic design. I wasn't design billboard. And just to get things straight, when you are using the principle of design, the principle of design it only applies to it doesn't apply in all cases or not all your design you will apply each principle. So once you are doing something, you already understand this principle. You can easily apply one or two or three or four or five or six while you designing. or you can sometimes you can apply everything, sometimes you can ignore some, so that your design will be more catchy or beautiful. Sometimes you can ignore some, so that your design will be more simple or less. Cedric, you want to say anything? Okay, so okay, the next one is the repetition principle. Repetition is a good tool to reinforce an idea you want to transmit through your design. It helps you to unify your project. It can use You can use the repetition principle in different elements such as color, text, shapes, and other graphics elements. So the repetition principle means you you want to give a particular concept or a particular idea, or maybe you want to create unity in your design. Maybe you want to create unity in your design. The repetition principle helps you in this process. So you having to maybe you having to repeat a particular color when you designing. Use one or two or three or more colors, maybe one or two colors for the entire project. So it give that repetition, not only one color you're using two color, or using probably you're using shapes, multiple shape, you know. So it just about you repeating something, or maybe the text you using, you repeating that particular text is multiple times in your design is the repetition principle. Okay, so the next one is proportion principle. As I said, proportion principle in graphic design is one of the easiest to understand. Basically, the proportion refers to the size of element to one another in design. Large elements are easier to see in design than smaller ones, and by this principle, larger elements are the most important than smaller ones. So, as the emphasis principle says, the most important thing you want for people to see, it should be the first thing people see, or the most important thing you need to show on your project should be the first thing. So the first thing to lead to the next, second thing, the next one should be to the next one. That's preparation principle. So if you want people to see fire for fire first, and then you see your pastor second, and then they see the contact the location principle, the contact the location venue next. That's proportion principle. Just see it in application. So for this design, the first thing for this design here, the first thing I wanted people to see is the one man nurse and one woman nurse. Once you see the people, you start asking questions. What's all them? Why they there? So when you look at the flyer, the first thing you see is these people, a man and a woman. And the next thing you having to see is nursing. The second nursing is master degree in nursing, and then you can see the school that offering this program. If you're interested inside now, you can now look for this, or you can now look for this, or you can now look for this. So that's what the proportion principle says. Okay. The hierarchy principle in graphic design stand out that the most important element in your design should appear the most important element in your design should appear to be the most important. This help people who will see your design understand better what is important, what is the important element on it. So the hierarchy principle, talking about elements basically, and it's just the same as proportion and which one again? The proportion principle and the emphasis principle. So once you understand proportion, you understand the emphasis, you understand the hierarchy. So everything just talking about the most important, because you giving a particular message. This is how you make your design very simple. It's not about you bulking things all on a flyer, making it packed and lousy, right? So once you know your particular message, you make your message big, and then you continue with your enrichment from big, small to smallest in that form or in that manner, from big, small to smallest. It works basically on text enrichment. We will understand that more as we get into practical. So any question? When the team question in comment, if if not, then we'll close the class for today. And the assignment is to study and learn the balance 12, and by Wednesday we'll ask questions on what you studied,